I am come this day, blessed followers of light, upon this rolling planetary orb, to saturate you with the spirit of the Christ Mass. The holy light that came forth as the liquid light of Eucharist, as the flowing stream, crystal clear and pure, uncontaminated from the heart of God, is the life wave of every life stream. It is the indomitable electronic essence of the sacred fire from God's heart that can never be requalified by the human. And as I pause this day to honor the electronic essence of the heart of God, it is to honor it within universal life, within all, within each one, that each one may feel a remnant of that flame according to his blessed capacity to receive it. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, in the moving cadences of the Holy Spirit, does saturate the earth with the fragrance of frankincense, of myrrh, and the radiance of gold. As the men from the east, wise in stature, brought unto me gifts, so do I this day bring unto you gifts. And as I do, so shall ye do likewise, bringing the gifts of a contrite heart, an obedient heart, and a loving heart into manifestation unto the world. As the billowing wind conveys unto mankind the sense of movement and purity, so do I this day convey to you the spirit of eternal progress. But all of it, not part of it, is within the domain of God's success. Mortal men, today as in days of yore, stand gazing up into heaven, and the heavens above are abundant with the compassionate life of Almighty God concerned for a planet that has not fulfilled its purpose. As I gaze upon the earth, and as I gazed upon the earth this day, when I came in rushing with the dawn from the Holy Land, circling round the earth with myriad bands of angelic beings, the love tide within our heart could scarcely contain or be contained within our spiritual form. Do you understand the meaning of that? That the infinite could scarcely contain itself because of the love tide of cosmic grace which God feels for this sorrowful star, where the hopes of men go year by year unfulfilled, and the tears of mankind are like an ocean, grimy and charged with the salt of bitterness. Where shall men turn save unto the heavenly host? Shall they turn to that ingenuity which they call the ingenuity of themselves? Shall they turn to the scientists who in their mild manner have sought to shake the earth? Or shall they turn to the men of spirit? Yet where, oh where upon this planetary body do we find men of the spirit? Where do we find those who uphold the wings of the law, even as the wings of the morning uphold the law? We search, and we see it only and solely within the compassionate cosmic Christ, seeking to come into manifestation within the heart of the tiny children, searchers for Christ's grace and spiritual manifestation. Hungry are these, hungry indeed, hungry within and hungry without. I do not imply here that men of spirit of necessity must, without, in the outer world of form, manifest a lack of abundance. My implications show that there is a world need for God to supply all things, and that it is in reality God that does. Let men deny the benign grace of God. Let them imply, if they will, that God would not bring famine upon mankind, and I say it is rightly so. But God has not brought famine upon mankind. Mankind, by a lack of kindness, of understanding, and of obedience to the law, have brought upon themselves, in many cases, continental famines and destructive activities. Here you have a multitude dwelling in the land of America, in the industrialized West. You have men and women filling your cities. You call them teeming multitudes. And to some of the blessed little people encountering these teeming multitudes, there is an element of fear and timidity within their consciousness, for they are overwhelmed by that which they see. Truly the capacity of the soul and of the eyes of the soul must be increased to understand that God, who spake to Abraham of old and said, I will make thy seed as the stars of the sky and the sands of the sea, innumerable, is able to count and number the multitudes whom he hath formed and created. Across the world and the span thereof, in India, the famines have brought distress, alleviated partially by the kindness of your own nation and others who have served and desired to do so, to alleviate their hunger, to wipe from their eyes the tears of bewilderment. But now we come face to face with the Spirit of the Christ, of the eternal cosmic Christ. I was a-hungered and ye fed me. I was sick and in prison and ye visited me. And I say now then to those who sit in ivory towers in censure of other life streams, inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me, applies to all in whom there is the breath of life. And those who from their ivory towers with scorn do look down upon mankind, who are sick or in prison or in situations most undesirable, and say unto them, this is the fruit of your karma, are indeed judging those souls. For only the lords of karma and God himself durst judge them, yet mankind do not hesitate to do so. And within themselves there is a feeling of rightness and sanctity and harmony. And I say unto you this day that spirit of harmony and sanctity that is within them is false. For except they be born again of the Spirit of truth, to enter into the heart of truth, and to understand the meaning of mercy as well as sacrifice, they cannot truly enter in to the harmony of the universal spheres. They cannot understand the law that applies to one life stream with the same diligence and tenacity that it does unto another. There is always the grace of Christ for all. And the dying thief who hung beside me on the hill Golgotha received mercy from me, and I did not debate it. I said unto him, verily I say unto thee, this day shalt thou be with me in paradise. When will the weight of mortal condemnation be lifted from the earth, so that the forward movement of the brotherhoods of light, the forward movement of the churches of the world, the forward movement of the cosmic light can come into an active sphere, whereby the planetary body is surrounded by Christ's radiance, the benignity of the angelic host, who minister in sweet simplicity to the little children of the world regardless of their past karma, who minister to mankind regardless of their past karma. We do not ask to gaze upon the karmic record of a life stream before we give them a cup of cold water. And we do not ask to see their karmic record before we extend our hands, holding out the cup of the water of life that men may drink and live forever. Of course, there is the rightness of the law, the rightness and justice of the law, which is administered by those who are qualified to do so, and ye need not fear that those who wrong you will face the vengeance of the law itself. But of what profit to thee is the vengeance wreaked upon another? How does it profit thy soul? It is not for thy profit, it is for the profit of the one upon whom the lash does fall. Did it not record clearly, every son whom God loveth he chasteneth? And what is the purpose of chastening but to bring forth right fruit? While men today uphold some basic tenets of the law, there are so many violations and infractions brought against the mighty essence of the sacred fire, the divine God presence, which in reality you are, that these seem formidable and numberless. Yet out of the east, and with our band this very morning, flew on wings of light angels of hope, angels charged with divine hope, angels charged with and singing paeans of praise unto God, for his mercy endureth forever. Be comforted then this day, all ye who mourn and who are afflicted, for your deliverance is at hand, even at the door. Not as mankind might always desire to dramatize or outpicture, not as mankind might draw by design as upon charts, and speak to mankind and say, thus and thus does the Lord live, and thus shall the Lord come, and thus are the records made. And we understand all mysteries and understand all things. Let them know that even the Godhead, in assessing mankind, has so arranged it that mankind's free will is yet an imponderable, even unto the outer activities of the deity. The Father has foreknowledge of all things, and the records are clear unto him in the inner court of his temple. But he, in the outer manifestation of himself, is unable to predict with accuracy what mankind will do, because their free will is often set upon by many and devious winds of human emotion. And it is human emotion and the lack of self-control by mankind, as well as uncertainty, doubt, fear, and other human emotions, that prevent anyone from with certitude predicting all that shall be done, leaving it in the hands of the man-God, whom we hope to see arise from that earthly state to embrace the heavenly one. Yet there is a manifestation that charts the course of the multitude and shows to us in which way they are going. In the present hour, there is scarcely a breath of motion toward the purity of the divine intent by relative comparison to the loud gusts that are sweeping man by the downdraft into the fires of burning karma, which, as fallen stars magnified and mingled with the density of darkness, draw down the cycle of the ages into a maelstrom, harbinger of mankind's iniquity. Is it any wonder then that even this day, which you designate Christmas Day, I should sound again with others of the heavenly host a note of solemn warning at the same time that I speak to you all of the great weight of glory and hope that is tied to the infinite course of freedom as freedom surges through the world. For just as there is darkness, so there is light. Just as there is despair, so there is hope. Just as there is uncertainty, so there is the blessedness of certainty. And we come this day in order to enhance the possibilities of mankind to find their way this year back to God in a greater relative measure than any other year in the history of mankind, recorded or unrecorded. I bear to you this day, in the name of the angelic host, glad tidings of joy, which shall be to all people, as all people of the earth shall recognize that the highest form of worship is obedience and love. That the highest form of worship is the regeneration of the body and being of man. That the highest form of worship is emulation of my principles, which are God's. Won't you please be seated? I call now to the angels of the east, sweeping the earth from the east to the west, and I say, intensify in the name of God your light. Let them who will reject, the little children shall hear and be glad. Let them who will reject, the open hearts shall hear, the open ears shall hear, and the tongue loosened from mortal decay shall give utterance to the unspeakable riches of the wisdom of God. Who is like unto the Lord? I did cry of old. Who is like unto our God, who maketh the sun as an arrow to fly from the east to the west? Who is like unto God, who giveth the spirit of victory to mankind? Truly, thou wilt not leave my soul in the pangs of darkness, but thou wilt bring me to the light. And thy mercy in me shall endure forever. For thou art life, O God, and in thee there is no death, no stain, nor spot. And thou shalt wipe away from every man each tear and every blot, and let flow thy mercy flame, mingling with holy love in God's sweet name, to cleanse the soul and move civilization forward, making whole the earth and healing all. Touch ye now then but the hem of my garment white, billowing as a cloud, encompassing all the night in man, and bringing light in man, a hope, a plan, a key, that fills the heart of all the free with an anthem prayer ringing through the air. Purity, love, obedience, commanding life to obey, to end all strife today, and stop the movement of the wars. Let peace and peace alone be adored, for I am the Prince of Peace, whose magnet heart, lifted up as a star into the sky of man, magnifies hope and exalts the plan. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, all nations of the world. Come and drink of the water of life freely. Release thy substance into the stream of purification and transmutation. Release thy substance and let thyself go free. Accept my compassion this day, though it come to you as the form of a tiny child. He who is done unto the least of these my brethren has done unto me. And therefore, as I gaze down the cycle of the days that compose this year ahead, I say, let your praise of me be obedience instead, and every act and every fact revolve around thy goal, and thus the plan of God for man will truly make ye whole. One and all, to all I call, for light is in my flame. One and all, to all I call, I am speaking in God's name. The earth is mine, the fullness of the plan for man to be, compels the world, compels the sun, compels the devotee. Obey my word and be glorified. Obey my word. Let men be denied the banal, senseless riptide of their fiery, misqualified energies. For I am Christ, the Son of God, who came by love to free. You shall hear, blessed one, in the forthcoming class, how a multitude of keys, not but one, shall be used this coming year as an intensified, glorified, consecrated intent of God released to mankind, will assist all in rising step by step upon the stair. Listen well, for it shall be the bell of cosmic joy for all who will hear, revere, and obey. Wipe away tears, end the fray. Secure your life to God today, and know that, lo, I am with you always, through all of your days of trial, through all earthly suffering, which is only a little while, until I am with you forever and and I bless you in God's sweet name. give thee thanks, Lord Christ, for thy blessed word. We thank thee, Lord Christ, for thy presence. We ask that this day shall be a day of adoration as a master pattern for every day to come this year. And until next Christmas, we may ever move forward towards thy great love. We thank thee and accept it done right now with full confidence. Please place your hands above your head and clasp them together as a higher goal, as a symbol to the Christ of your willingness to follow in his footsteps. Dear Jesus, we ask you this day for the word, those who accept and those who do not, a greater achievement in the name of holy progress to end the ills of mankind and our individual ills, to help us to walk as thou didst walk, to talk as thou didst talk, to be as thou art. Therefore, in thy name, we say thy blessed words together. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And he that believeth in me shall never die. And he that believeth in me shall never die. Sign of the heart and the head and the hand to you. May the peace of your presence abide with you. Wherever you are, wherever you go, may the glorious peace of your presence abide. Days of service and nights of rest, may the peace of your presence keep you blessed. The sign of the heart and the head and the hand to you. And a very Merry Christmas to you, one and all. peace in the name of the Christ. Pulsating within every atom, there is the sparkling star sun center, the radiance of divine purity that can never be requalified by human vibratory action. The mighty law of the Infinite One is the law, blessed ones, of unalterable peace. A peace that is suffused and saturated with the power of magnifying the virtues of the kingdom of heaven wherever men walk, that their footsteps may become charged with the Christ radiance which they draw through their own magnetization of divine grace. The Son of God pulsates then within the center of all substance, and truly all things were made by him, and without him was nothing made that was made. Metaphor and simile are not always understood by mankind, for you must recognize, beloved of the light, that upon the planetary body there is a great variance in manifestation of intelligence and capacity to understand and interpret on the part of the different aspects of humanity. Some are able to clearly understand truth and perceive for themselves the way that they should walk, whereas others are charged with a density of mortal creation which actually clouds the very issues of spiritual understanding for them, so that they cannot clearly perceive the meaning of metaphor and simile, nor can they even understand what beloved Moria has called straight knowledge. Today then, as I come into your midst, it is to charge a radiance of jade into your midst with the purity of jade substance from inner levels, so that you may have the benefit of having your consciousness stripped of all vestiges and traces of human creation, which the great law will permit on an individual basis. Those of you who have devoted yourself to the causes of the light, and for many a year have served it, will find a greater freedom manifesting in your work. But all shall benefit, and none shall be denied the blessings of our radiance as we pour the purity of jade substance from inner levels as a healing unguent through your four lower bodies, in order to provide you the full measure of power from the heart of the great central sun, which the great law will permit you to have here in the heart center, that you may better serve in the coming year than in all previous ones the cause of immortal freedom. And the flames of freedom will be amplified in your own physical, mental, spiritual, and etheric being, cutting you free from all that distresses you according to your capacity to acknowledge and receive the blessing which the masters of wisdom seek to convey to you this day. O precious ones, there has never been an appeal made for help and assistance and for the cause of freedom to mankind that has gone unanswered. The light that does not fail has never waned in its expression. Only man, and solely man, in his capacity to understand and to receive, has failed to apprehend all that has been given. Won't you please be seated? The precious radiance that your beloved Saint Germain has drawn here and upon this ground and in these buildings is intended to be a momentum of service that will assist you in producing in outer manifestation the harmony of the celestial spheres. We cannot of ourselves, in this case, even with the full power of the central sun, do for you that which you will not accept or seek to do for yourselves. If there is a measure of compliance within you, and the desire to serve our law and the laws of the Infinite One, we can always then come through that specific momentum that you have attained with a greater momentum of service and help you to fashion more glorious manifestations of consciousness. But if there is nothing there, but only the vacancy of abomination and of desolation, we can do nothing for you until you have yourself reached a place where your desires are no longer material ones, seeking to materialize some personal gain or blessing for yourself that is not of universal appeal. All blessings by infinite law must seek to let flow, as the God Meru has pointed out, the blessings through your life stream into the world of form and to all mankind. To apportion those blessings according to karmic capacity is always the responsibility of the qualifying angels of record and those who serve the karmic board well. It is never your responsibility, precious ones, to be able to decide just whom shall receive the blessings that are radiated as a universal vibratory action out from your own force field. Let your minds then be at ease, and let there be no troubling in your feeling worlds as to how you shall dispense the law. Be satisfied that you receive it, and see that your calls are for a greater capacity to receive the radiation of God, to retain the radiation of God, and to walk in the light that is given to you, rather than to decide what another person is worthy of. It is perfectly correct, blessed ones, for you to have Christ's discrimination and to understand what law is acting in the world of another. But inasmuch as the only permanent reality of life is the reality of God, then you must give all parts of life the freedom to change and the freedom to produce in their world the sweet Christ-like vibratory action of the light which you yourselves desire to apprehend and manifest. The law requires, blessed ones, that freedom shall be given to others if you are to enjoy freedom yourself. And when you consider the great spiritual hunger that is now flashing forth in the hearts of a recalcitrant humanity, you will recognize that mercy must flow through your consciousness, and that if there be hardness, it must be a hardiness of determination for yourselves that you should manifest the Christ radiance, not necessarily determine that another is not doing so. For all should and will one day, when the law has fulfilled its operation, have the self-same desires of all the ascended masters, and they will yearn for their freedom with the same capacity and hunger that you have, and that all who have won and achieved their victory have had. It is not enough, gracious ones, to contemplate the action of the beauty within the law. You must also contemplate the action of the justice of the law. And while it is true that individuals are often unhappy to contemplate the aspects of cosmic justice, preferring to contemplate the action of freedom, we wish to point out to you today that justice is another aspect of freedom. For so long as injustice exists in the world of form, it cannot be compatible with freedom. That is why your beloved Saint Germain embodies the quality of freedom, while beloved Portia embodies the quality of divine justice. Divine justice is the means to freedom. And when individuals who will seek and pursue freedom will recognize this, their capacity to receive freedom will be enhanced directly and proportionate to their own manifestation of justice in the world of form, to their fellow men, and the obedience to the law of the golden rule will produce in their world the purity of jade substance as it is released from the higher octaves, rather than, as one of the masters has contemplated and brought forth, the production of jaded states of consciousness, which is not the manifestation of the jade purity from the heart of the jade temple. O gracious ones, if you could see the mighty joy that is manifest throughout the universe as wandering bands of angels from various systems of worlds, drawn and magnetized by the spirit of Christmas upon this planet, do come into your atmosphere, it would do your hearts good. For if mankind themselves are caught up and surfeited in a commercial whirl of greed and expectation of mortal gain, the angelic hosts are not, and they are still coming in teeming numbers into the atmosphere of earth, and coming, precious ones, to the hearts of little children who are able to bask in the Christ radiance without asking the question why. These blessed children are truly they who are indeed of the kingdom of heaven, and I think also that if their lives could be untampered with by their adults and their supposed peers, they would find that they would grow up in Christ's radiance because of their receptivity and responses to the angelic host. I do not fail to acknowledge that there are many among them, of course, who from an early age are brought up into a state of consciousness which precludes the possibilities of their attention to the angelic host. Some of these are indeed re-embodiments of those individuals who are wandering stars, to whom is reserved the mist of darkness forever, until such a time as they can gain their victory over the awful momentum of shadowed substance which they have released into their world through disobedience to the law, embodiment after embodiment upon this planet and upon other stars and systems of worlds. You do not know then what freedom would mean to these individuals, for the weight of density in their worlds cannot be contemplated by you who are not actually one of them. Therefore I say, precious ones of the light, the power of the light must continue to go forth, and the power of a resurgent purity must continue to go forth into the world of form, for the need is very great, simply because there are so few laborers in the vineyard of the Divine One is the exact reason why those laborers must be so valiant in their manifestation of cosmic energy. They must be so valiant in all that they seek to do, and they must perpetually call forth the light of God that does not fail, not only into their midst, but into the world of form as well. For there is always a selfish tendency in spiritual people, because of the great joy and bounty of love in spiritual vibrations, to sometimes be content to enjoy those vibratory qualities without recognizing that upon the planetary body there are other parts of life where the thorns and thistles thereof are causing an intensification and magnification of pain and suffering. Therefore, in the quality of mercy which God is, it is always desirable to invoke by the quality of mercy a manifestation of hope to those who sit in darkness, that they may perchance see a little bit of the great light of God that is working through. And yet I tell you, precious ones, that just as there is a great relative comparison between the vibratory action of those outer world individuals who are caught in the nets of darkness and yourselves, so there is a tremendous gulf fixed between the vibratory action of the ascended realm and your blessed selves, one which we seek to breach and bring across the power and radiance of the Christ season, which in actuality is eternal, every day being charged with the radiance of the Christ season, and every day intended to be charged with the radiance of the ascended host and the angelic host, bringing compatibility, harmony, and love into manifestation through all the forces of nature, and creating a harmony in the heart which makes individuals to feel as though the heart was a lyre upon which the great law could play its majestic chords of infinite freedom and capacity to love as God does. Understand then that as I speak to you today, it is to convey into the atmosphere of the planetary body the purification of jade substance from inner levels, so that the entire planet may feel the impetus of freedom, that the pine trees, the fir trees, the balsam, and all of the various deciduous trees as well may receive some activity, so that the perennial trees and all of the forces of nature may be touched this day, including the blessed elementals who minister to them, by the quality of immortal freedom from the heart of God, to permeate the atmosphere of the planet with more and more of the Christ radiance that will produce the perfection for which your hearts call. O blessed ones, be at ease in your feeling world this day, and continue to render that service to the light which ought never to wane, but always to be a mounting, surging, billowing, buoyant feeling of celestial joy that attains from day to day a greater degree of the infinite wave from the heart of God that calls mankind home to the heart where God is, and produces the domination and perfection of Christly qualities everywhere, that mankind may be crowned indeed by the power of the light that does not fail, that the light rays coming from the crown upon their head may be manifestations of Christed intelligence, and that all that they do and think and say and feel may be indeed purified, radiant, and ascended even before the forms themselves have bended completely to the will of God. The hour of 12, the midnight hour, has struck for the planetary body, and truly the great sun, the noontide sun of the celestial radiance, is also in the heavenly octaves, beaming out the light of God that without end shall illumine the city foursquare with a victory so fair and pure that it will fore'er endure. Be then completely identified with our octaves of light, and trouble not your hearts about outer things, except to do them well, and then, as Saint Germain intends, your freedom shall be an eternal gift, this season for all seasons. I thank you. is a precious fact which varies in mankind according to their consciousness, its aspects of devotion, purification, and the search for the light, which sunders and cleaves from mankind. All that impedes and interferes with the clearest perception of the light of God as it comes filtering down through the atmosphere. Remember, blessed ones, it comes from the great central sun, through the grand galaxy, and enters into the world of the secret. We who journey of old to the manger of the Christ, riding across desert sands, mounted upon our camels, bearing gifts for the young child, are well aware of the need to mediate perception with the heart of divinity, that out of the power of perception comes clarity of being, whereby accurately one can define a journey's end. If you will think in terms of infinity, there is a tendency to think of a cup so vast that it can contain nothing. Therefore, the markings upon the screen of life, upon the patterns of life, the markings upon life itself, which enable mankind to understand, are the moments, the seconds, the hours, the days, the years, and the time-space continuum, all of its vast scope. Yet no measurement can contain God, for He is infinite. But it will assist you in searching out your own goals, to comprehend them in terms that will relate to the finite consciousness, the reality that makes it possible for you to understand. Truly you know in part, and truly you understand in part. When that which is perfect is come, that which is done in part will be done away with. It is a matter of absorption. The little finite self blends into the vast sea of infinite life, but it does not lose its identity. It remains conscious of self, dancing in the joy of the infinite life. As a means toward goal fitting, it would be well if the aspirant would understand the goals of his own individual life from the standpoint of your life. You have, by the grace of God, those of you who are students of the light, and have dedicated yourselves to the service of that light, forged links with the hierarchy, which are vastly important, not only to your own well-being, but to the well-being of the teeming millions upon the planetary body. Consider well, then, the means of service whereby you may implement your mission, not in the sense of mortal grandeur, but in the outpicturing of a grand service unto God. At any mortal age, men may remove themselves from a fixed position in the world and world goals to a place where infinite goals and practical service to their fellow men become a daily reality. This is the harnessing of the love tide about the infinite sea. It is perception of the needs of the moment. No mere visionary, then, are those mystics who understand the practical spiritual life. They are indeed the firm foundation upon which the new world order will be laid. Yet, men lose sight of their own position and place in life because false goals, alluring to their own selves, are outpictured before them. They see and perceive the measure of these false goals in others, but they often do not recognize them when they appear in the domain of themselves. Therefore, perception must be increased, and goal fitting must be understood. Your beloved El Moria, filled and charged with divine love and with the power to execute it, has constantly spoken with me concerning the needs of the hierarchy to surge forth in this age before the descending pall of mortal thought and feeling crushes the noble aspirations in a miasma of confusion in the young aspirants and those precious life streams who have dedicated themselves to his infinite service. Each day, as the sun rises, so must the star of constancy within the domain of yourself behold the patterns of that day and determine as to how you can execute them. You live in an eternal day, blessed ones, but as beads strung upon an eternal string. The days come and they go, and the cycles are broken by the blessedness of sleep. This sleep is the requirement of your mortal form and is a means of recharging yourselves so that you can indeed serve well, drinking in with the coming of the morning the vital energies of life released from the great central sun. Now mankind in their mortal reasoning can easily find fault in a world where there is the diurnal movement of the earth, and where there are infinite spheres in a heaven so vast as to defy astronomical calculation, with the statements that I am making, and they can easily say, how is this possible? For the dawn cometh to one belt upon the planet at 1 hour, and to another at another hour. I say to you, there are activities in the tides of the emotions within men, and there are activities within men governing diastole and systole that are not thoroughly understood by the scientists themselves. And therefore, how can they say that with the coming of the dawn there is not a release of immortal substance into the consciousness of the blessed devotee? The dawn indeed sweeps the earth, and so does noontide, and eventide, and the night. All have their place in the cycle. But we believe that the faith and understanding vouchsafed unto us, which has enabled us to escape the thraldom of the senses and become ascended beings with the Lord Christ, and the many who have escaped from the world thraldom, should be ample proof enough to mankind that the holy science which we hold is correct. And therefore my statement stands that as men salute the virginity of the dawn, there is released into them the power and radiance as fruit for the day. Try it. See if this be not so. Come now and prove yourself, and then decide. For the practical men are the ascended beings. Mankind who remain bound to the thraldom of the senses, in a recurrent cycle of identity, losing all that they have gained in one life, only to search it out again, are not the recipients of the fullness of God's grace. They are the pauper kingdom, the footstool kingdom, and the schoolroom of life adherents, who must one day claim their freedom, that they may know new and cosmic dimension. Truly eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, nor entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for them that love him, to them who are the called according to his purpose. But I speak now of that which is clearly perceived by us, that which we see, for the veil has long since fallen from our eyes, and we are able to behold those wonders now which you will behold in days to come. And so shall it ever be as the eternal cycles roll. For on worlds without end in the vast whole, there is a continual release of man the creation, man in life, into man in the divine life. And graduates from the schoolrooms of earth will fill and storm the portals of heaven. You are moving in the direction of the man-child, and the star of the man-child is manifest in the firmament today and forever. For even the light of a candle can never find its way to the borders of infinity. How then could the light of the living Christ ever be snuffed out? Or if it were to be snuffed out, if it were possible in one corner of the universe, there are myriad cosmic beings who would sustain it. And if these were to be snuffed out, if it were possible, there are on the earth itself a number of beings who would sustain it. And they are becoming more. And there is a greater release to the planet Earth from day to day of the light of the golden age and the unfoldment of the mysteries of God. You today can well inherit the lore of the wise men who came from the east. You can well inherit the flaming radiance of the star which spoke unto the shepherds as well as to the kings of the Messiah, which was born in Bethlehem of Judea. You can understand now that that same Christ that filled the tiny baby body is in replica, in duplicate, in manifestation within all men, awaiting their recognition of his coming. The princes of darkness tremble, but the princes of light rejoice. For Messiah has come within unto men, and his star will continue to flash forth its radiance in the firmament. And wise men will continue to journey to the place where the Lord lay. Today, the Spirit does not require the journey to be a physical one. For the journey today has moved out of the scope of the physical into the internal recognition of the Christ within. And therefore men need not journey of necessity to strange and uttermost parts of the earth, but they must journey to those self-same parts within the domain of their consciousness. For as far as the sky is from the earth, so is the consciousness of man in its perception, and the qualities of that perception from the Christ radiance. And the journey must be one of spiritual pressing, a pressing of the consciousness to the heart of God, to the heart of Christ, to the purity of the law, to the unfoldment in this day and age of the pragmatic radiance that floods every age and is never old and ever new. That men today may hold in view the light that floods the night with hope and faith and charity, full view of Christ's radiant face, the wonder presence of his grace. Hear then and know that in this day the same eternal Father, strong to save, is at hand, the Prince, the King of light, knocking at the door of the hearts of all men and calling them to dispel their own ignorance by the light command that clearly states, I am the light, I am the ray, I am the faith, flash forth today, compassion pure from God's own heart will make secure. I now will start to move in circles ever widening to paths of light and goals more brightening. Comprehend then that the infinite light, the infinite way, is the way of men who today lie as grains of sand upon a beach or upon the landed surface of the world. Yet these will one day no longer represent the crystallization of substance. They will be as living mountains, and the verdure of those mountains and the snow-crowned heights will be indeed a mantle of white, which the world will gaze on with hope. For it is in the summit of man's being and his God perceptions that he is able to see the vast continents of infinity, the realm of spirit where victory encompasses the self all around about, and the self becomes that victory. There is then a drinking in to the promise of the Lord Christ by all races and kindreds and tongues, by all of every visage of countenance, until there is an alteration in that countenance, and the face of man is changed into the face of God. Today there is a whiteness and a trembling upon the lips of some who seek to find and find themselves yet afar off. Let these bear the accord of our succor and our comfort. We have passed the way ye now do go, and we say to you that while that victory may not just be around the corner, it is not so far from you that you cannot each day externalize a fragment of it, and with that fragment build your own mountain to the sky, where you will draw nigh unto God as he draws nigh unto you. We are scientists of the holy mountain. We are scientists of the light. We are comprehendors of the celestial radiance. And we are determined to illumine you, that out of the sea of words that fills the world and the books of the world, you may receive the practicality of the guidance that at any hour will steer you in the right direction, will clear you to your God perfection, will raise you by the power of infinite love into the aura of his grace, descending from above as light rays sevenfold, 7 bars of cosmic harmony, 7 strings of gold. Pure and beautiful is the world where peace and love are then unfurled as banner of the hierarchy, reveals itself as cosmic key. The way I am, the way ye know, the way of grace by love will flow into the hearts so chalice pure, that do their presence now hold secure. Love is the key, not only for this year, but for all time to come. This blessed thought form shall soon be dissolved by the great light of the incoming thought form, as Lord Gautama reveals it. In the meantime, at this hour and for all time to come, you may hold and revere its memory. It has served you well, and one day all men can and shall revere it, even as we do. In the name of the blessed Lord, Christ Jesus, our elder brother and friend, we who came to him, El Mori, Kathumi, and myself, remain with a bond of cosmic affection, devotedly your servants of God. gracious ones, out of the fountain, cosmic illumination, from the very heart of God, I come this day, bearing my banner of freedom, that which I have come to feel is my very own, which I willingly offer to share with all mankind, that they may carry it as their very own. I do then this day, holding that banner high, call to your attention many specific facts of considered importance for your own personal self as well as for all mankind. Let us this morning take up the subject of the electron for a brief span. Have you thought how in the very words themselves there are indeed contained significant aspects which clearly reveal the nature of a given condition, place, or thing? In the case of the electron, the very word elect references the freedom of will which the electrons have. There are very few that have recognized, known, or understood, or even considered that electrons are actually little points of the infinite light of God, part of the cosmic fire, sparks of his infinite being, who elect to do his will, going forth joyously, dancing throughout the universe. They convey the substance of light into the world of space, form, and time. The world then comes alive because of these tiny electrons dancing in the very body of God. Mankind accept and take and use the energy of these electrons in myriad ways, almost infinite ways, enjoying untold benefits from the activity of these small parts of the cosmic identity. These blessed electrons, dancing in the living flame from God's heart, do joyously continue day after day to outpicture radiantly all that you call the manifestation of nature, all that you call your own, even your physical form. When the truth is known, even the spiritual form of man is composed of these blessed portions of the divine substance released into the world of form. Heed and hear then how that these blessed, small, minute portions actually function within the domain of their own free will, electing to go forth, to carry forth this energy into the world of form. Some to be misqualified and held in bondage, but ultimately to return of their own free will back to the heart of God for repolarization, after man have done unto them as they would. For while many have lamented the crucifixion of Christ upon Golgotha, few have paused to reflect of the crucifixion of these nameless electrons in mortal form, and how that they have been subjected to, over the span of the century and the millenniums, countless abuses and discredits, which have indeed planted, as it were, a crown of thorns upon their miniaturized being. These blessed creatures, and I choose to use the term somewhat loosely, these blessed creatures indeed have great affliction brought against them by mankind's wrong thought and feeling, for they are compelled to be witness to all that is unseemly among mankind, as well as all that is exemplary. I do not choose now, however, to have you remain to this small state of consciousness, which I will say to you this morning is actually a dubious statement. For there are times when I think that the electrons deserve more honor even than the molecules and larger portions of creation. For without them, you would find no impartation and continuation of life in the span of space and the stream of time. As it is indeed now, in your own cycle of the years, come to the place where you are fulfilling a part of that which you term the Christ Mass or Christmas, let me call to your attention, blessed one, that the fruit of the Divine One is coming to the attention of mankind in the Christ mind, the Christ identity, the Christ ideal, and the encasement of that Christ in the seemingly finite body of the man Jesus. For as above, so below. And in the miniature world of form, each electron moving to become a part of a body does in its effect cast forth its energies as into a manger, bringing its sparkling radiance into the world of identity, and producing there a sustainment of life form. Thus, throughout all creation, the advent of the Messiah is understood as involving all strata of life, and therefore the Christ Mass is the witness to the power of regeneration within form and within spirit. For even the Spirit of God does in effect magnify His radiance through identifying with the creation, and then by reflecting the energy into the creation, receiving back the fruit of that energy. In the case of the planet Earth, because of the lack of fulfillment of cosmic purpose, that which has been received back has often required that the debts of mankind be balanced from the great treasuries of life, and thus have other planets and systems of worlds sent forth help and succor unto the planet Earth and its people. We believe, and the lords of karma believe, that one day all will be balanced in effect, and that the mankind of Earth will arise in recognition of their own responsibility to redeem themselves from the unfortunate slavery into which they have been cast. When that hour comes and freedom is given to every man and woman upon the planet, not only freedom to identify with the spirit of life, but freedom to balance the debts to life, and to repay the other planets and systems of worth, and to repay life itself, I am certain that a humanity illumined by divine grace will be willing to impart that energy which they can amply supply from the great cosmic storehouse back unto the place where the law requires its balance. Please understand, precious ones, that the laws of life are very intricate and very complicated. If viewed from the ascended level with what you might term a magnifying glass or a microscope, you would be staggered in your consciousness by that which you would witness. Just as the scientists of the world have often been astounded and awestruck by revelations concerning form itself, and as the astronomers have been astonished by the creation of the universe and its intricacies, so those who ascend to inner levels and behold for the first time some of the vast patterns and intents of Almighty God are almost staggered, as it were, by the radiance and the intricacy of the plan. We recognize how that simplicity is most desirable, for that which is simple seems to be easily assimilated, and that which is complicated requires some activity on the part of the mind and being of man, whereby the manifestation can ready itself to perceive and to understand that which is revealed. I am certain that it will be clear to all that if we were to reveal the higher aspects of divinity, for which your beings were not yet prepared, that there would be no place in your being through which the knowledge could pass, but it would come up against you as a whirlwind and probably knock you off your feet. because it is the desire of heaven to give mankind that which is progressive in revelation and will enable him to rise in consciousness from day to day, we often bring forth those little blessed portions of spiritual knowledge which can be easily assimilated by the aspirant and will cause an expansion of the being to occur within each precious life stream that will enable that life stream to hold the pattern of purity and perfection and to sustain that pattern within the force field of his own being. It often is true that individuals cry out and ask for greater knowledge than they are able to bear. The traffic today in knowledge upon the planet is very great, but unfortunately for mankind, a great deal of it is a practiced deception which is brought to mankind to couch old truths in new language simply in order to flood the coffers of the world with the gold which mankind so dearly treasures. Those who can and will understand the higher teaching will clearly perceive that God himself has no axe to grind with humanity, but seeks only to give and to bequeath to mankind the fullness of the blessings of infinite freedom, giving this without money and without price to all. Nevertheless, in the world of form, it is necessary that those who are beneficiaries of the grace of God shall also be benefactors of others among mankind. And therefore we can understand how that in this season of the year there is always a great increase in the giving of gifts from one to another individual. These gifts often convey a mere token manifestation, and then again they convey the great love tides of the heart, where individuals are fully aware of the grace and responsibility which they themselves have and which others have, and desire to spread abroad good in the world of form. When a gift includes the giver, it is ever the greatest of gifts. For this is akin to the patterns of God himself, who has actually given that electronic substance of himself unto the world of form in order to perpetuate life everywhere. This is the abundant life which God desires to produce and perfect. When individuals understand that there is a spiritual perfection whereby the permanent atom of their own identity becomes wholly wedded to that which is spiritual and identifiable with the pattern of Almighty God, they will understand how that the electron actually will compose not only the permanent atom, but the whole body of substance, which is the glory which passes from glory unto glory. They will comprehend that they will one day have the power to claim and acclaim that they have, as God has, manifested permanent electrons within their own force field, which will not require to go back to the great central sun for repolarization, for the great God flame within the heart of each individual will repolarize that substance right within the individual himself. This is the message which I am bringing to you today, to show you that the qualities of repolarization, of magnification, of beauty, and every God quality must exist within the domain of each individual before they can be given with absolute certitude the fullness of that eternal life which they already have at inner levels from Almighty God. This is the secret of the tree of life when it is rightly understood. It shows clearly that the only reason that mankind have been denied life, that is permanent eternal life, even in form, is because they have not yet proven their worth and demonstrated their ability to hold the electronic substance around themselves so that they could renew that substance as well as be renewed by it. For life does not demand of mankind a little bit of himself, but life demands all of himself. And individuals should understand clearly that as the electrons give all of themselves unto mankind for the sustainment of life within man, man must give all of their spiritual energy to the electrons in order to sustain and support them. And this is indeed a duality of expression, where there is flow created between the positive and negative poles of man's being, thus sustaining the phohot in its own dimensions and enabling mankind to pass from death unto life, to move forward through the great concentric rings of cosmic advancement to where they become filled and running over with the power of the abundant light. There is more, much more that I could reveal, but I will give you this morning that which I think through assimilation and digestion will inspire you to understand that in the intricate patterns of universal law there is conveyed to the individual identity the means whereby that individual can know his own freedom, and finding his own freedom can sustain it by the laws of God henceforth forever. And thus the banner of freedom will be raised over his own house forever, and it will be not only mine but thine, for we are one in our purposes, electing to pursue this course because it is the only sane course, the only just course, the only right course, and the only possible course whereby a man can find his eternal life and live forever as God intends. Let individuals pursue other courses if they will. They will always come to a blind alley, to a bête noire, where they will find there is nothing whatsoever that is interesting to them, and they will then turn another way to back off, as it were, from that which does not provide interest to their life stream. But when they come to the real, true, spiritual path and the pathway of freedom, by the infinite violet fire from God's own heart, and by the Christ consciousness which raises them, even as Moses raised the serpent in the wilderness, so they will find that the serpentine force within themselves will be raised up before all men, and will draw all men unto me. That is, draw all men unto the Christ light, because the electronic substance within that one is a radiant fire which blazes forth and attracts mankind, not as moths to a flame, but as witnesses to that which is within themselves. A potential that for all men spells freedom and the end to all bondage, all despair, all vicissitudes, and a recognition of the Christ mass eternal that lights the heavenly skies everywhere and floods the mind with new hope and courage to face and victoriously overcome all outer conditions by the power of the inner light, which now blazes forth and will always blaze forth to those who will recognize it, accept it, and gladly use it for their own freedom and for the service of mankind in this hour when the world need is so great and so frightful. I want to tell you, precious ones, that mankind today have responded to a small portion of the karmic board's decision, and there is certain activity stirring within the hearts of men concerning the use and employment of the elementals to spur individuals to recognition that all is not well upon the planetary body, and that mankind have not fulfilled their destiny or the right path, that in thousands and thousands of years that has raised civilization to a pinnacle of scientific achievement, they yet remain in what we shall term the dark ages of mankind's spiritual life, fulfilling to a very small measure that portion of justice which is taught by the golden rule, do unto others as ye would be done by. Again and again, as samples of human karma are brought before the karmic board for the weighing, we say, as in days of old, thou hast been weighed and found wanting. Again and again, we have witnessed mankind in their awful, stifling selfishness, which actually shrivels the soul, how that they have failed to comprehend and understand only that which seems to benefit and command their own mortal identity. We therefore say to you today, free yourselves to the God intent. Free yourselves to that power which will give you immortal and eternal victory. Do not permit yourselves to be held in control by any lesser manifestation. Understand that if that manifestation comes through yourself, it is no more virtuous than if it comes through another. That which is actually producing bondage in your world, wherever it comes from, should be stopped and halted then and there, and you should accept in its place that which means your infinite freedom, your capacity to do the will of God, and your capacity to overcome. For in that capacity is your victory. And when you attain your victory, you assist every man, woman, and child upon this planet to have theirs. Won't you assist me as we today send forth rays of illumination into the world to raise mankind yet further? Ladies and gentlemen, of the heart of God, in His holy name I thank you, and I blaze the violet fire of freedom through you, and I call for your freedom and release from conditions that have bound you. I call for the assistance of the cosmic host and the angelic host to set you free. I call for your minds to be clear and pure, that the cosmic fire may leap there, secure from all attacks of mortal thought and reason. I say, this is the season of your victory. It is the season when Christ's power is magnified upon the planet. Take advantage of every impetus that pushes you forward, and remember that we are not only on your side, but you, I hope, are also on ours. I thank you in the name of God and His precious freedom.
I'm going to be reading to you from another book, which I think is very important as foundational material. Sometimes it's interesting to follow the lines of a book and we get into the mental body, and other times when we listen to the word, we internalize more than the word, but the cup that comes with the word. So why don't you try this on this evening? I simply don't have another book to share. So this book is The KH Letters to C.W. Leadbeater. It's a very rewarding book, and it clearly delineates Chilaship and what it takes to become a Chila. So rather than skip any of this, I will begin at the beginning and take your mental notes, expand your right brain, internalize what you are hearing, and be assured that you can become what you hear from this teaching. So this is the KH letters to C.W. Leadbeater. On November 21, 1883, C.W. Leadbeater signed his application form to join the Theosophical Society. On March 1st, 1934, he passed out of incarnation. The sole interest of his life during 51 years was to work for the Society, the Theosophical Society. He has to his credit a magnificent record of service rendered to mankind through his lectures on theosophy in many lands and through his books on many aspects of the ancient wisdom. What was the driving power in his life which made him firm and faithful to the end? You can ask that question of yourself. That driving power came from the fact that he found his master in October 1884, for it was then that he was accepted as a chela or disciple by the adept, who called himself Kuthumi and signed his communications with the two initials KH. How Mr. Leadbeater came to receive certain letters from the Master KH and what were his reactions to them must be examined if we are to understand him and his life's work. The first chapter in any biography of C.W. Leadbeater must begin with this incident. For when the significance of that incident is grasped, and when his action at the time is rightly appraised, then we can see why opportunity after opportunity came to him of service, and why thousands in many lands, men and women, boys and girls, looked to him as to a father, brother, and friend for guidance and inspiration. In 1883, Mr. Leadbeater was a clergyman of the Church of England and was acting as curate in the parish of Bramshott, Hampshire, England. He had for many years been deeply interested in spiritualism, not in the inspirational addresses of the spirits through their mediums, but in the phenomena performed by those spirits which revealed not only the existence of unsuspected powers in nature, but also the command over them by discarnate entities. I will let Mr. Leadbeater now take up the story. Mr. William Eglinton, quote, "In the course of my inquiries into spiritualism, I had come into contact with most of the prominent mediums of that day and had seen every one of the ordinary phenomena about which one reads in books upon that subject. One medium with whom I had much to do was Mr. Eglinton, and although I have heard stories told against him, I must bear witness that in all my own dealings with him, I found him most straightforward, reasonable, and courteous. He had various so-called controls. One, a red Indian girl who called herself Daisy and chattered volubly on all occasions, appropriate or inappropriate. Another was a tall Arab named Abdallah, considerably over 6 feet, who never said anything, but produced remarkable phenomena and often exhibited feats showing great strength. I have seen him simultaneously lift 2 heavy men, one in each hand. A third control who frequently put in an appearance was Ernest. He comparatively rarely materialized, but frequently spoke with direct